Hello, my friends. Welcome to Well. This is actually our first live podcast recording in person. So, any of you guys that are getting a little snippet of this on video, good for you. But I am joined today by a good friend and incredible inspiration in my wellness life, Danielle Barbeau, who is the owner of The River in Denver. And was actually asking her, like, CEO, owner, founder. And we're laughing because we just silly to call ourselves anything sometimes. So
100%. Yeah.
just Danielle.
Just Danielle. Danielle's great.
And I'm not going to lie, starting a podcast, it got a little intimidating figuring out how to do this in person because I got so comfortable with my headphones and situation at my desk at home. But we are traveling right now. I'm actually in Denver for Yoga on the Rocks. And actually,
Hey.
I have a lot of questions I'm going to ask you today. How did The River, which is an amazing studio, 3 locations in Denver, how did you guys get involved with Yoga on the Rocks?
Well, well, well.
Well.
First, thanks for having me, Laura.
Yes,
It's great to be
of
here with you,
course.
and thanks for the invitation. This is a funny story, as many stories are when you run a yoga studio. But in let's see, this would have been 2015, I believe. The city of Denver, Denver Arts and Venues, who actually runs Yoga on the Rocks in terms of the behind the scenes, ticketing, the venue, etc. And they had been doing these yoga classes for a couple of years at Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater. And they put out a request for proposals for a new partner. And we were tiny,
One location then.
one location, couple years in. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're like, let's throw our names in the hat and see what happens. Simultaneously, there was this other series going on, outdoor yoga in a park that I just didn't feel aligned with. And they were like constantly kind of contacting us to participate. And so I had like one person who was sort of on my management team, and she answered the phone one day and she mouths to me, I'm in the office. She's like, "It's yoga on the rocks." And in my head, because it seemed so unlikely that the city would care to talk to us, I was like, "Tom, I'm not here. I'm not here." And she looked at me, and because I was thinking of the other yoga event, she's like, "It's yoga on the rocks." Anyway, she finally put it together for me, and I was like, "Oh my God," and got on. And this will be our 9th season. We've been so fortunate to get to really help grow this event with the city of Denver. And
Amazing.
yeah,
So fun. And
that's the more fun story of how we got involved.
yeah, especially because I know there were like some of the big names in yoga originated
Yeah.
in Denver, right?
Yes,
So,
this is true. This is true.
yeah. And for those of you that are not familiar with Red Rocks Amphitheater, although I feel like now it's kind of become this like bucket list thing for a lot of people, but just Google it. Just come someday. It's amazing. It's
It
one
is
of
amazing.
those just natural wonders experiences. If you get to see music, if you get to do yoga, being outside in that environment, the view, the lights, all of it, it's pretty magical. So I am super excited.
Yeah.
I've got 3 members of my team here today. We're all going to be going in the morning,
I
but
mean, there is nothing like over 2,000 people. The first moment when everyone lifts their arms together,
oh,
like
I just got
takes a
goosebumps.
deep breath, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
So yeah, come.
awesome. Well, the the vision for this pod was really to talk about leadership. And the reason I got excited to have Danielle here is, I've watched you evolve as a leader. I've worked with you as a leader. Danielle and I actually worked together before I had started Walla. And I know you had an educational background in leadership. And I've been so amazed getting to know some of your team members and inspired by the way you've led this community. So I'm excited to dive into that. And one of the things I always love to ask whenever I talk to people that I kind of, I don't know, look up to as leaders is, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, were you the kid that wanted to be president? What made you land into this role?
You will be shocked to hear that the jobs that I was interested in as a child included being a teacher, being an artist, and being an entrepreneur. And in reflection, I'm like, well, I basically just want to be my parents. My mom is a teacher. My dad is an artist and entrepreneur in that he started his own construction company. But I mean, I started hustling to babysit kids in my neighborhood when I was 8. My mom jokes that I started a summer school in my front yard when I was about 9. And then I had we'll call it a paper goods company when I was right around the same age, 8, 9, 10.
Were you like drawing greeting cards?
Oh yeah. I was like stapling pieces of paper together and being like, it's a wallet. It also costs $5. And I made business cards. My first business was called Some a Dis and Some a Dash. And this, not to give away the era that this was in, but it was like purple and teal and magenta,
Yes.
crayons.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah, as that evolved, the other thing I will say is that I got a little older, was a teenager, and I was like, when I am an adult, I'm going to create like a hangout center, like a teen center where teenagers can just hang out and be together, no grown-ups.
God, you like crafted your entire life as a child and as a teenager.
I mean, then I was like pretty certain I wanted to open a coffee shop. I wanted to call it the Usual. It was like a place where you would walk in and people would just say like, "Oh, you'll have the usual," and you'd be like, "Yeah, man, you know me, I know you." So,
that sounds like the retirement job you need anyway. I mean, like maybe that's the next phase.
I know what I want my retirement job to be. This is like my favorite question. What do you want? What do you want your retirement job
What
to
is
be?
it?
I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours.
I will. I definitely will. I too, and I can do them both. So, you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first. Maybe we'll work together.
Maybe we'll work together. The first one is I want to snuggle babies at a hotel, at a hospital.
At a hospital, yeah.
I am a baby whisperer. It's like one of the little known facts about me. I taught prenatal yoga and mommy and baby yoga for years and years and years, and I have this like uncanny ability to swaddle perfectly. It's just a weird skill. Get babies calm, and I like love snuggling little babies. The second part of the job is that I want to have like I don't know if it's going to be a wine bar or if I'm going to work at a winery serving wine, but I absolutely want there to be a music component to it where there's constantly live music, hosting live poetry readings, things like that. So
okay. This is not what I want to do.
Okay. So we're not
we're not working together. But I do have a connecting thread. Well, I would really like to be a park ranger, but I think that requires some additional skills that I don't have. And it's actually not a great time to be a park ranger. Yeah. So I've set that dream aside for now. But my other one is I want to work at a visitor center in like kind of a smallish town where I can say we could live in the same town and I could be like, my friend Laura has this awesome wine bar live music thing happening. And also there's a farmer's market. And can I tell you about this fundraiser that we're doing? I just want to point people in the right direction.
That's so perfect. And make them feel welcome. That's so spot on.
Yeah, visitor center.
Oh my gosh.
It's the same job. Awesome. I've been wanting to do the same job my whole life.
Well, perfect. I was laughing internally as you were talking about yourself as a kid because we were pretty much the same human. Like I absolutely had the weirdest entrepreneurial ventures. My parents would have friends over and I'd answer the door in my roller skates and be like, I'm putting on a show in 7 minutes downstairs in the basement. It costs $2. We'll see you there. Like hand them paper tickets that I made. But I realized we probably would have competed with each other. There probably would have been something in us that
one of my values is collaboration over competition. So I think I would have been just right there in the show with you.
You take a higher road than I did as a 7-year-old for sure.
I wasn't that competitive. I was like, yeah, let's all do it together.
Okay, so let's dive into leadership. I mean, I think what's interesting to me when I really looked at the landscape of leaders I know in this industry, I don't know that many people would say like the first person you go to is somebody who owns a local yoga studio. But truly, Danielle, like you are one of the leaders that I look up to the most. It's not just because I've interacted with your team and seen them, it's also the community you've developed at the river. And I'd love to hear, as you started really thinking about building a business and how you were going to lead this business, what kind of traits and qualities did you feel you had to do that? And was it something you evolved into, or was it naturally like, I've got this and I know exactly how I want to lead the charge?
Well, thank you for
You're welcome.
that. Those kind words. I mean, it means a lot. This fall will be 13 years of running the river yoga. And I think it's honestly taken me until almost this year to step into that identity and to see myself really as a leader and to look around and say, I've been doing this long enough. I trust myself. I know things. I have things to share. But at the onset, my journey into this role, it just didn't really it certainly didn't start with the end in mind. It was a bit of just being in the right place at the right time. I often say that it feels like the river found me more than me finding the river. And my job all along has been to be a good steward of the possibility of holding space for people to feel like they belong in a world where we often feel separate and we
Yep.
feel disconnected. I think I definitely had institutional knowledge, some educational knowledge, and some life experience, but a lot of it has been learning to listen and ask good questions and to see potential and possibility in people.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about the formal. I know part of your background was actually studying leadership.
Yeah.
So what was that program like? Tell us about it, and what did you learn there that you've really kind of kept as a consistent thread in your evolution as a leader?
Well, here's a funny thing. So at the time, I worked for the University of San Diego, and I worked in the international studies department. I did study abroad and student exchanges. And I was at this place where up to that point in my career and really in my education before that, in my life before that, I was kind of checking the boxes, doing the things, trying to be good and do good. But there was this friction in my role at the university where I was constantly frustrated by how siloed higher ed
Mm,
felt.
interesting.
For example, I got to get a new computer for my office. And this is like 2011, probably. And everyone had desktops. And I was like, I'm getting a laptop because then I can walk over to your office and we can sit together and work on stuff. And people are like, so like, what, why are you in my office? Like, what are you doing in here? Right. And so I don't know that I could have quite named it as leadership, but looking for these spaces of collaboration. Anyway, because I was working at the University of San Diego, I did a master's program in leadership studies at their School of Education and Leadership Sciences. And I think that so much of that education, one, gave me a framework for making what often feels implicit or almost subconscious, the way we interact, why we feel inspired, what motivates us, giving me more explicit framework for how to teach that and how to study it and how to implement it. Now, at that time, I also was like leading nothing. I was
Hmm.
leading some programs. Yeah, simultaneously, I was like, okay, I don't think I want to continue in higher ed. So what else am I interested in? I like yoga. Maybe I'll do yoga teacher training. So I did yoga teacher training to convince myself that I didn't need to get a master's degree.
Mm.
I immediately enrolled in a master's program. As soon as I finished my yoga program, I was like, I'm never going to work in yoga. That's ridiculous. Like, I'll just teach a class on the side. That seems like enough.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And 13 years later.
13 years later. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so as you think about the team you've developed, and, I think we often talk about um, how what the dream is, being able to remove yourself from the business and have your team kind of perfectly delegated and everybody executing. Tell me how that journey's gone for you, and from where you started, running a yoga studio and probably doing a lot more hands-on tactical work than you're doing today.
Yeah.
How have you gotten yourself to a place where you can identify the right talent for certain skills and actually let go?
I actually find that to be quite easy
Mm.
because I know that I'm not good at everything. I have no qualms. I'm not striving to be a type A. I say often like a B plus would be sweet. Like that seems good enough because I think this has never been about me. I have no desire for the River Yoga to be the cult of Danielle Barbeau. Instead, I think my job is to look around and say, who's here to help? Who's standing right beside me? And when I think back of some of my most challenging moments as a leader, I wasn't letting other people in. I was trying to carry it all. I was trying to hold it all. I pick my head up and I look next to me. I'm like, oh, here's this person who's like, hey, man, let
Oh my
me
gosh.
help. Delegating the follow through piece, right? Like it's easy for me to live in the land of possibility and big picture. So remembering to come back and coach and take care of the people who have picked up projects and
Right.
have, really have been invited to be an entrepreneur alongside me in their own way
I love that.
has been an important part of my journey. And I think going back to my leadership education, lots of things that I learned, but one just simple thing that I think could be practical for other small business owners, studio owners, is when we talked about, well, I mean, first we talked about like, what is leadership? And for me, leadership is the ability to motivate and move people towards a common vision or a
Mm,
common goal. Everything starts with mission, vision, and values for me. So at the River Yoga, it's like ad nauseum, what's our vision? What's our mission? What are our values? As we're moving people in that direction of what we're trying to build and create in the world, we come up against challenges. And those challenges in leadership studies can be divided into sort of two fields. One is technical challenges, things that are challenging, but there is a solution.
right.
So, you're not on Walla
Yeah.
and there's a software issue because you're not on Walla. That can be fixed. There is a solution. You might have to figure out what it is. But then the harder part is adaptive challenges. And adaptive challenges are where there isn't a template. It is more than figuring it out from a manual or something that's been done before. It's saying, no one has ever blazed this path in this way before me. How am I going to continue to move through these
Mm,
hard times or struggles or difficulties or just learning new things, right? So the pandemic was obviously
for
a
sure.
tremendous moment of that. But in smaller ways, I think we come up, for me, I see myself as when there are adaptive challenges in the organization, that's where I need to step in and put in some effort to help
Right.
the team figure them out. Technical challenges is like delegate. I'm probably not good at that. You can figure it out. Yeah,
That's such a great framing of how to lead. I think about, so at Walla, one of our core values is ownership mentality. And I'm realizing as you say that's what we're looking for in our employees are the
mm,
people that can adapt and can take those challenges, the adaptive challenges, and say, okay, what's a different way to look at this? Where's a new lens or an interesting, you know, perspective here that we can kind of challenge the status quo or
right.
if I were the one who is responsible for the P&L or for making this business survive, what would I do?
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. I love that framing. Well, so when you think about the non-negotiables that you have for yourself as a leader, is there anything that you kind of sit there and hold yourself accountable to on a regular basis?
Absolutely. This to me is also an advantage of being a dedicated yoga practitioner. This year I turned 41 and I was thinking coming up on my birthday about what a big part yoga has been of my life and was just sort of reflecting on like what have I learned from yoga? What tools do I have? And there's sort of the obvious things like, oh, I know how to regulate my breath. I can use this as a way to calm down and keep my body healthy. But on this larger path of yoga, right? When you hear people talk about the 8 limbs of yoga, like what are we doing? And to me, things like the yamas and niyamas, the things that we do and we don't do, it's like the guidelines for living life well.
Yeah.
And so my non-negotiables, number one, as a leader in the yoga industry, is like I have to practice
Yeah.
yoga.
It is actually, it sounds like the most obvious thing. I cannot tell you.
100%.
First of all, I'm guilty of it. When I was running a yoga studio, there were weeks that would go by sometimes where
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? I have not taken a yoga class. No wonder I'm ripping my hair out right now.
Yeah.
And the number of people I talk to who either hit burnout points where they're just like, I don't want to step back in my studio, or they're just not loving it anymore the way they
Yeah.
used to. So I admire that so much.
Yeah.
So have you run up into times where you're like, I'm done?
Oh,
Or,
for sure. I mean, this past month, it was just a full time of life. And I was like feeling grouchy and
yeah,
overwhelmed. And I'm like, what is going on? And then it's like, oh yeah, I'm not doing the things that I know keep me on this path. And so I guess back to my birthday,
hmm
I wrote my own personal list of my yamas and my niyamas, things I'm going to do and things I'm not going to do. I'm going to do less of because there's like this tendency, I think, for us to be like, oh, yoga, it's this like weird ancient thing. Like,
yeah,
how is it relatable to modern day? Like, I don't know, maybe we can do asana, we can breathe. But bringing that a little closer to home makes it pretty easy to say, am I aligned or am I misaligned? And then, so anyway, so I have my list, but then when it comes to leading my team, it's just constantly returning to people first, people first, people first, because as we know in the yoga, fitness, small business world, this is a service economy
Hmm.
that we are living in, and people are what we're selling.
Yep.
People, our teachers, our front desk staff, like we have to take care of those folks
Yep.
because without them, it's just me alone, sad in an empty room. That's not what we're trying to do.
Well, it's people that we're selling who deliver a feeling.
Yes,
And when you have
100%.
happy, well taken care of people,
Hmm.
they are going to deliver the most amazing feeling and experience. And it is so evident when I walk into businesses where the employees are taken care of and the employees want to be there and they're thrilled to step in the doors, even when they've had a hard day, because they know that that space is a home to them, a community to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very evident. I love that. One of the other things I was curious about, so the river actually blows me away because I know a lot of people talk about community and how boutique fitness really does do an amazing job with community. The river in their third location actually has photographs around the studio of all of the tattoos people have gotten of the river.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
River inspired tattoos.
I
Yeah.
think that is actually the ultimate sign that you've succeeded at building community. But I mean, all jokes aside, was it intentional? I mean, obviously the people first is intentional, but how did it all happen?
Well, I think we often do this, right? We create something that we need.
Yeah,
I think at the show Cheers, again, this like,
the
not
usual.
everyone's gonna, yeah, the usual, a place where you walk in and everybody knows you. And they don't have to know you as well as your best friend knows you. In fact, a lot of research says that those loose connections that we have in society, like that's what we missed during the pandemic. One thing was that interaction with your barista, the
Right,
interaction with your cashier. That allows us to show up as our best selves in a way that being at work or at home, we have to play our roles
right.
differently. And so for me, and this again, this started really in grad school, the discovery of the language of creating a third place. And a third place is not your work, not your home. Your home's your first place, your work's your second place. But a third place is a place where community happens, culture is transmitted, ideas are shared. It's the classic examples are coffee shops, barber shops, parks, plazas, and more all the time. Um, Yoga studios and gyms.
Hmm.
And so for me, I think in that creation of a third place, our vision at the river is to be a place of belonging in a world we're celebrating. I wholeheartedly believe that if we all felt like we belong, there would be so much less suffering. There would
Right.
be than like bombarded constantly with how divided we are currently in the world. Could we sit together? Can we create these spaces? And then you look at things like remote work and the epidemic of loneliness and
Hmm.
isolation and the decline of us having third places because they're expensive to
Yep.
have right now. And we don't need them. We don't need an office water cooler if we can just hop on Zoom.
Right.
And so that's part of what I wanted to create, but the reason for doing it feels more pertinent than ever.
Yeah.
In Denver, I've just in the last couple of months read that 23% of the workforce is 100% remote,
Wow.
which is so many people. We're in the
Yeah.
top three in the United States for remote
Interesting.
workers. And those are people who are often young,
Yep.
often, I mean, maybe not often single, but maybe they have one or two other people in their house. They're not with a group of people. And again, they're with those close connections, people that know them really well. And that 23% doesn't include the stay-at-home parents.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
include the people like me who my job is not remote at all, but where do I work most of the time? At my house,
Yeah.
unless I'm
Because
getting
that's where
out.
you get
That's where I get my
the
things
fewest
done.
distractions, well, besides kids, but
Yeah, I get them out of the house first.
yes.
So many of them. Anyway, all that is to say, for me, the motivator behind creating the river, the thing that keeps me going, the thing that had me interested in having a yoga studio was the feeling of being able to be with other people and not necessarily people who are my closest friends and
Hmm.
family, but who I feel the collective effervescence of being in space with others
Yeah.
and having something in common that you don't necessarily have to name.
Okay, did I tell you about the book The Joy of Movement? Have you read it?
I haven't read it.
Wait, that term, collective effervescence, is like one of
Oh,
the main.
it's just the best.
It's so great. Okay, you have
Yeah,
to read this
I
book.
gotta read it.
Anybody listening, Kelly McGonigal, Dr. Kelly
Yes,
McGonigal.
yes. Oh, I've listened to her podcast. That's
Yes,
probably where I
and
heard
she has a TED Talk about the
it. For
benefit of
movement's
stress.
sake, too, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
What?
yes, yes.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Maybe. But
But
yeah,
I know Joy of Movement is her book that just blew my mind. And it's really, really, it speaks to collective breathing, movement, like all of it, and how we are genetically predisposed to trust people more that we breathe and move with in synchrony. And that goosebumps right now thinking about it. And the other thing, as you were just mentioning all of that, that struck me about the third place and just about what a yoga studio provides and places like that. When you're at home and at work, you are responsible for a lot, right? This is a place where you get to step in, and maybe they're not the closest relationships of your life, but they're relationships where there's not the burden of responsibility
yeah,
on you. You get to show up exactly as who you are and just enjoy. And there's so few times I feel like we get to do that now. Like the constant working remote and the constant pressure of just an ever evolving, hustle culture has created an existence where there are very few times we get to live in that place of I'm not needed for anything right
yeah,
now.
yeah. And nobody needs to know my role.
Yes.
It's another thing that I love about gyms and yoga studios as third places that is also different than, let's say, a bar. You show up to a bar and like you either show up looking real good or not
There's
so
an
good.
agenda
Right?
often.
You're just like, and you're out in the world, but like you show up to yoga and everyone's in athleisure wear
Yes.
and everyone is sweaty and you don't know that the kindergarten teacher is next to the CEO, next to the person
Right.
who just got laid off, next to the person who is in school, right? Like you're all just there. I think the next layer of that is this is a big thing I'm trying to lead with my team right now, is we have to facilitate intentional connection for that community of people. Because another magical thing is while you get to show up and kind of like shrug off your titles and your responsibilities, when you're in that place, and again, like when you're feeling lonely or you're feeling like you're carrying so much, and then all of a sudden you meet this stranger and you have the foundation of, okay, we have one thing in common that is being here in this yoga class, but you do this thing and I do that thing. Like maybe we can do these things together. Or I see you in the grocery store and all of a sudden my neighborhood feels a little more like a neighborhood because I see you here and I see you there. And so that I think is a big piece of our role as really service industry professionals and yoga teachers.
Awesome. Gosh. Well, just so much wisdom there on leadership in general. And I think in why our wellness industry is so needed, whether it's a yoga studio or it's you know, at this point, recovery lounge, it could
Yeah.
be anything. It's providing a space that really, really is going a long way for humans right now. Gosh, we could talk forever, but I love to kind of wrap things up with just getting to know you as a human a little bit better. On the topic of books, what are you reading these days? Is there anything that's kind of caught you and you're excited about it?
Well, I'm reading this book right now. This is like going to come out of left field, but it's called The Judgment of Paris, and it's about the start of the Impressionist movement.
Ooh,
It's really cool. Like I said, my dad's an artist. My dad is
yes.
a big influence in my life. My dad is a big part of the reason why I started practicing yoga. Anyway, he gave this book to me years ago, and my team is joking that I'm like back in my reading era because I just stacked books up, and they were only like to learn. But besides that, Unreasonable Hospitality is a book every studio owner or gym owner
Right.
should 100%
Love it.
read or listen to. Or
Yeah. I liked listening to it. I thought it
yeah,
was a really good,
I
walk with
totally
the
agree.
dog book.
Totally agree.
I want more about the Judgment of Paris book, so I'll have to
Yeah,
look you
just love those
offline.
impressionists.
No,
Yeah,
I have a slight obsession with like the post World War One artists, living in Paris, Hemingway and Picasso and
yes,
all of that. And I
yes.
could just like Midnight in Paris, that movie, when I was a teenager, whenever that came out, I was like, oh my God, that's it. I wish that's where I would go.
And honestly, the thing I love about it is it threads these stories of people that we think of as separate together. And you're like,
Yes.
oh, they were actually all that. Oh, no wonder their work is alike because they were hanging out, right? They were hanging out in third places.
Yes, you're right.
So,
there you go.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today and for being my first live podcast. Guys, if the audio is not perfect on this, it is the best we could do with these tiny little microphones that I feel like an influencer using.
I know. That's what my kids won't think that we
I
look
know.
like influencers.
We look cool.
But we might think we do.
Yeah, they would just roll their eyes at us, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time on Well, Well, Well. And
Thank you,
so much.